TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donation. Shalom Ve'erev Tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin, broadcast from Jerusalem. Israel has deployed a humanitarian delegation led by the IDF Home Front Command to Colombia following a deadly 7.4 magnitude earthquake that claimed the lives of at least 273 civilians. Turkey is calling upon Egypt to join the Mecca Defense Agreement as Cairo officials voice their own reservations. A U.S. Secretary of the Treasury says the United States will step up efforts to isolate Iran. Israel has deployed a humanitarian delegation led by the IDF Home Front Command to Colombia last night following a deadly 7.4 magnitude earthquake that claimed the lives of at least 273 people, wounded thousands of others, with hundreds still unaccounted for.
273 fallecidos.
273 people have died. Of those 273 deaths, 250 have been referred to the medical examiner's office, 227 have already been identified, and 189 bodies have been returned to their families. We have reports of 3,824 injured and 377 missing. These are the official figures from the Attorney General's office.
Upon a request by the Colombian government, Israel's delegation departed last night to include search and rescue and medical teams and tons of humanitarian aid. Turning now to the Middle East, where Israel has reportedly sent the U.S.-led Board of Peace a document citing over 100 alleged violations by the Islamist Hamas terror organization of the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, amid clear evidence that the Islamist Hamas is working tirelessly to consolidate its power and to reconstitute in territories under its control. Moreover, the terrorist organization is recruiting thousands of youth to refill its depleted ranks. Meanwhile, Jared Kushner, U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law and special envoy, is scheduled to visit Israel next week for a round of talks about the Gaza Strip. The visit is intended to advance the next stage of the American plan to disarm Hamas after the terror group failed to fulfill its obligations under the initially proclaimed 20-point plan. Kushner is scheduled to visit Israel with Board of Peace Director General Nikolai Mladenov. They will meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu and other Israeli senior officials, after which the delegation will then travel to Cairo for further talks. Meanwhile, in the Egyptian capital, during a joint press conference between Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati and Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, Ankara's top diplomat insisted that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is leading Israel into international isolation in light of Jerusalem's aggressive policies. Fidan further insisted that Hamas, which Turkey has supported in mediation efforts with the United States among others, was living up to the terms of the ceasefire, a statement that is factually untrue.
Bugün tabii ki önemli konumuz bizim özellikle Gazze'de olan.
Today, of course, an important issue was the tragedy in Gaza and how we can find a solution to this. We had a special session on this. As you know, we see that Netanyahu and his team are increasingly escalating policies that trample on human dignity and are acting in a way that is practically provoking the entire international community.
Ankara's top diplomat continued by addressing the recently signed Mecca Defense Pact among Turkey, the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and highlighted Ankara's wish for Egypt to join the emerging alliance. In response, however, Cairo's top diplomat did not shy away from voicing Egypt's reservations by claiming a need for further study of the implications of joining the regional alliance.
In fact, without explicitly naming it, we started regional ownership and regional cooperation with a new spirit and a new vision a long time ago. Of course, this needed to be structured. A foundation needed to be laid. The foundation laid in Mecca by the three countries was truly a historic initiative put forth by our leaders. On this point, of course, we have been discussing this issue with our Egyptian brothers from the very beginning. We are consulting very closely. Egypt is one of the brotherly countries we consult with first on all the issues we address in the region, whether it be security, political, or economic. This issue is important to us. Of course, they themselves have stated this. They are currently evaluating it with certain details. But Egypt is our natural partner. God willing, it will soon become our official partner as well.
İnşallah yakında resmi ortağımız da olur.
We are engaged in the quartet framework, and Egypt has a very unique relationship on the bilateral level with all the sides of the quartet, whether the brotherly kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or the state of Pakistan, or with the Republic of Turkey, unique relationships, which are not limited to political fields only, but extend to different fields. Naturally, Egypt is keen on pushing bilateral relationships with the three countries. When it comes to cooperation defense fields, and there are commitments in such affairs, it is natural that this needs deep studies in light of the Egyptian constitution and legal commitments also. As a result, we have been aware of this issue since the beginning, and since then, it has definitely been studied by concerned institutions within the Egyptian state.
Foreign Minister Fidan also seized the opportunity to highlight Turkey's hope for the ceasefire between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran to sustain, despite ongoing violations by the latter, as repeated attacks against commercial vessels persist.
Attacks on commercial vessels, particularly in the Strait of Hormuz, seriously jeopardize navigation safety in the region, as you know. So, what can be done about this? We discussed this with him. We hope that the ongoing ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran will be reestablished and the Strait of Hormuz will be reopened as soon as possible.
Meanwhile, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, in an interview to the American Fox News channel, asserted that from an American perspective, the first priority is to keep oil and gas cheap for Americans all over the country, while the second priority remains to guarantee Iran does not attain nuclear weapon capabilities.
Well, the thing I can say with confidence is I think this ends with the United States in a stronger position, with Iran not having a nuclear weapon, and with the Strait of Hormuz returned to a place where oil and gas prices are stable for the American people. I think the issue here, Will, is that the Iranians sometimes make commitments that they don't honor. They make a deal, they don't honor the deal. And I understand your point about the seesaw nature of this, but I think what that reflects is that we have a lot of tools at our disposal to compel action. And sometimes we're focused on the energy piece of it because we want Americans to be able to afford the price of oil and gas. Sometimes we're obviously focused on the military nature of it. Sometimes we're focused on the nuclear program. So I think what is really happening is that you're seeing a president of the United States at the height of his authority with a lot of tools, diplomatic, military, and economic. What I think is really going on from the inside is that we're using those tools very selectively, very strategically to get the outcome that the President of the United States needs to get for the benefit of the American people. And it really is twofold. It's ensuring that the Gulf countries continue to send oil and gas to the world economy so that we have energy price stability. That's obviously important for the American people. I know that oil is down today, and it's way down from the highs in the early days of the conflict. That's goal number one. Keep oil and gas cheap for Americans all over our country. And then obviously goal number two is ensure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. I feel confident we're accomplishing both of those goals, but it's inherently an unpredictable thing because the Iranians themselves are unpredictable and they sometimes don't honor the commitments they've made to us.
Alongside Vice President Vance's assertion, it is becoming increasingly apparent that the economy in Iran is effectively collapsing with the Ayatollah regime threatening to go on the offensive if its demands are not met. However, U.S. military officials are unimpressed by the terrorist regime's threats, and the naval blockade, according to both Israeli and American intelligence sources, is effectively crippling Iran far beyond what it is letting on. In tandem, Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent has said in an interview to Newsmax that, at the president's orders, the United States will ratchet up the economic pressure on the Islamic Republic.
At the president's orders, we have raised the level even again, and watch this space for more announcements coming next week, because we are going to apply measures like have never been seen in the history of economic isolation on a country.
Meanwhile, the Ayatollah regime in Tehran is desperately trying to ratchet up pressure on the United States by urging its proxy, Ansar Allah, which is dominated by the Houthi tribe in Yemen, to attack energy infrastructure in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and freedom of navigation in the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb and adjacent waterways. And according to the UN Special Envoy to Yemen, who addressed the Security Council last night, tensions are rapidly escalating.
Yemen today faces a more serious risk of return to large-scale conflict than at any point since the 2022 UN-mediated truce. There has been an intensification of military activity along front lines, with recent attacks by Ansar Allah in Marib, Hadramaut, Mocha, and beyond, causing casualties among both military personnel and civilians. With regional trade and energy flows already under intense pressure from the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz, Ansar Allah's renewed attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, which the Council condemned in its recent statement, risk deepening Yemen's entanglement with a wider regional confrontation. These attacks also put seafarers' lives at risk.
The link is crystal clear. The Houthis demonstrate active cooperation and alignment with Tehran. They engage in terrorist actions that increase instability in the region and threaten global commerce. The United States stands with the Republic of Yemen government against the Iran-supported Houthi terrorist threat. The United States also stands firmly with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in the face of the Houthi threat.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of our viewers. If you're blessed by our productions and would like to help support TV7 Israel, which operates as a nonprofit, you can donate via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. Jonathan Essen wishing you a Shabbat Shalom u'Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.